Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Night Luke Live Online. I'm Father James DiLuzio, back in the library of the Paulist Fathers Rectory here in Manhattan. Tonight's pericope is Luke's Gospel, chapter 12, verses 1 through 9. Now, although we have a chapter designation, we're really right in the middle of some of Jesus's most powerful preaching. And if you were with us last week, you know that he was ostracizing the Pharisees and the scribes for paying too much attention to outward signs, but not being attentive to their relationship with God, their love for God and for others. Not enough conversion of heart. So he's going to continue on this theme as we now look into chapter 12. Again, not a designation that Jesus made. He kept on preaching, but those who printed Bibles thought it would be helpful to designate various topics into chapters and put lines of verse. Remember that. And also know that Jesus would have preached these same teachings and preaching these sermons time and time again, so often in every place he visited, and had his disciples repeat them over and over to every place he sent them in preparation for his visits, so that what is recorded is what is so well remembered, so often repeated. And then he would take the time to explain time and time again with different variations, depending on who his audience or assembly may have been. And then that is left to us and the ongoing preaching and discussion and dialogue and study. So here we are, what is designated as chapter 12, verses 1 through 9. Meanwhile, so many people were crowding together that they were trampling one another underfoot. He began to speak first to his disciples, "Beware the leaven," that is, the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. "For there is nothing concealed that will not be revealed, nor secret that will not be known. What you have said in darkness will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered behind closed doors will be proclaimed on the housetops." I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but after that can do no more. I will show you whom to fear. Be afraid of the one who, after killing, has the power to cast into Gehenna. Be afraid of that one. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 small coins? Yet not one of them has escaped the notice of God. Even the hairs on your head have all been counted. Do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows. Whoever acknowledges me before others, the Son of Man will acknowledge before the angels of God. But whoever denies me before others will be denied before the angels of God. The Gospel of the Lord. Now, what do you think of that? Jesus was criticizing the religious leaders, and now it's coming right home to us. Hard sayings. Jesus used hard sayings. Remember, fear was a primary teaching tool in the ancient world. And Jesus, the human part of Jesus, the humanity of Jesus, would use the tools that were available to him at the time. So, first, the people are crowding. We have huge crowds. People love hearing the leaders being criticized. So now that he has a big crowd and they're wallowing in that sense of superiority, he now says, and as for you, me too. Very interesting. I love that phrase that opens with the second sentence. It's, there is nothing concealed that will not be revealed, nor secret that will not be known. It's almost like something you could march with. There's nothing concealed that will not be revealed, nor secret that will not be known. You could even do a tap dance to it. There is nothing concealed that will not be revealed, nor secret that will not be known. And we have to have some fun with the rhythms of the speech of the scriptures. So he's telling us what we are talking now in private, even behind closed doors, perhaps our allegiance to Jesus, perhaps our decision to say this is truly the one that God has sent to help reform our faith, bring us a deeper conversion. We're afraid tentatively, but it will come to the point where it will all come to light and be proclaimed on the housetops. So that certainly has come to pass. And then we also have the sense on another level of what that saying means is that truth will always come to light. We need not be afraid of speaking truth, even if we're initially afraid or tentative about it. Truth is truth, and it will be manifested to all the people. Then Jesus says, look, we tend to be too much concerned for other people, their opinions, their reactions. If we know what is true, we should just trust in God's hands, place ourselves in God's hands, because their impact on us, ultimately, even in death, is not the final answer. Again, so important that Jesus was here at the time to move the Jewish people who were listening to him to affirm there is life after death. They were very tentative about it until about 200 years or so before Jesus' arrival, when there became a sort of renaissance in Judaism and a reinterpretation of their scriptures for resurrection from the dead. And again, I've said this a couple of times, this is the primary reason why scholars say Christianity spread so far. Because that longing in people's heart, this can't be all there is. There's too much unfairness. There's too much conflict. We have moments of peace, but they're fleeting. We want the heart longs for a union with the deep truth, with deep love, which is God. God, the very essence of love and reconciliation. So Jesus is saying to them, look, people can even kill you. Be afraid of the one who does the judgment. And that's a strong statement. Be afraid of the one whom, after the killing, has the power to cast into Gehenna. Be afraid of that one. So emphatic, and yet, again, he was just using the teaching tools of his time. He sits right back to say, look, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid at all, because we are worth more than many sparrows, and not one of them has gone unnoticed by God. Really powerful. Then we have this sort of tricky conclusion to this segment of his preaching. If we acknowledge Jesus, we'll be acknowledged before the angels of God. Again, that there's a connection between heaven and earth. We're not isolated. We're not divorced from the heavenly kingdom, from the angels or from the saints. But whoever denies him will be denied. Now again, suddenly, are we getting that mean God again? And he's ready with tit for tat. You did this, I do this too. It's not that. It can sound like it. It's really, in essence, truth bears out truth. Fear caves into more fear. And so to give in to the fear, to deny, it grows. It ends up enveloping us. It's the consequence of our choices. It's not the reward or punishment from God. Not in a very literal sense. But there is the mystery that how is it that goodness continues to grow and evil or fear continues to grow in its own way? do we have a choice? God understands the context. He understands the context for fear, but he's not addressing that particular point now. He's not addressing it. Although he did for a moment to tell us not to be afraid. We're worth more than sparrows. So again, not many of us, well, we might be enjoying watching the birds of winter in the trees and having care for them, feeding them perhaps. But think perhaps even more closely, more intimately of any household pets you may have. They can do right. We love them. If they do wrong, we might scold them, but we're just so loved. I just keep thinking we're God's puppies. That's it. We're worth more than many puppies, but we're still kind of like God's puppies. Woof. Thank you so much for joining me. For those of you who tune in to Young at Heart, I apologize. I totally forgot that Friday was Friday, last Friday. But in fairness to me, I have a sinus infection and my antibiotics made me like super tired. I totally lost what day was what. So we'll have a Young at Heart this Friday instead. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely week. God bless you. God bless. Good night.